Right here, I have the Gun 562. As the name suggests, it's 62mm, so it's bigger than the Mei Long 6 and Hong 5, both of which are close to 61mm. As for the shades, most cubes are really similar to each other nowadays, but Gun has a lighter shade of green than other brands. It features curved cuts on all the edges, and the corners are square on the surface, but they are round underneath. Turning is very light, fast and stable. It reminds me of the Valk 5, but without the rigidity, and with a lot more speed and a lot less effort to turn and hold. The cube is also very quiet and smooth, with an enjoyable turning feel. Corner cutting is really good, almost a full piece reverse, and over 45 forward. The Gun 5x5 is the first mainstream 5x5 in a long while to feature a 2-shell design. The last time this happened was the Moyi Huachuang from 2015. Seriously, this cube is 9 years old. A 2-shell design means that the corners and the midges are locked into an inner shell, which acts like a fully functional 3x3. The inner 3x3 shell adds a direct pressure point onto the outer layer, producing a stable outer layer, as opposed to having a stability to decrease with each successive layer. And even though such a design is not commonly used in WCA cubes, it's very common in non-WCA cubes because of the stability and consistency it provides. The actual performance of the Gun 562 does not disappoint compared to what its mechanism suggests. The Gun 562 also features a very hollow design to lighten up the cube. You can see it here on the corners, midges and centers. It also has a slight anti-deforming mechanism, not as big as the Ultron WRM's anti-deforming mech, but is comparable to the Moyi Huachuang. The core corner magnets of the gun is built in the extended octahedron, as opposed to the ball that is featured in the Hong, and generally the Hong's core corner magnet distance is much closer compared to the gun. One cube that I want to compare against is the Light 5x5 from 2021, because this is the very embodiment of most of the features that I want to see in a 2-shelled 5x5. Unfortunately, the 3D print material does not do these features justice, but the Gun 5x5 comes really close to realizing all these features in an actual mass-produced cube. However, it does miss out on a couple of things. Firstly, the Light 5x5 goes full stockless, while the Gun 5 still has a small stock. Going stockless helps to maximize the size of the outer layer pieces, so I can pretty much make the corner bases so big that, while this one is as thin as a screw and it gives extra space for the corner base to expand in. Next, the Light 5 is mag-left with one magnet inside the 3x3 shell and another magnet inside the 5x5 shell. This is accompanied by jam packing the mechanism of some other pieces into the space between the two magnets, which helps to maximize the root size of the second layer. The Gun 5, however, is just a standard spring and screw cube and therefore does not feature this. So even though the Gun 5 is impressive on its own, there are still some potential features that can be present in the future 5x5. Finally, the last cube that I want to compare with is the X-Men Hong, the other flagship of 2024. So first, the ball core of the Hong is much more noticeable than it is on the Gun 5. The Gun 5 is much smoother and glidier, while the Hong actually feels a little bit more like you're going over a speed bump. It takes more effort to start your turn, but once you cross 45, it takes less effort to finish. The Gun 5 is the lighter and faster one of the two, while the Hong is something that I had to spring compress to speed it up, to get it to a speed that I like, which generally makes the Gun 5 better for lighter and effortless turning style, while the Hong is better if you are more forceful and aggressive. I generally think the lighter turning style is better, but the spring compressed Hong still works fine for me, and I'm actually getting the same times on both cubes. My PR is still set on the Hong. However, if I do decide to buy my own gun 5x5, I think it might actually have a chance to take over as my main.